All right, I guess I'll call our work session to order. So, there we go. Now, Grant,
All right, since I asked for this meeting, I will put together an agenda. I think Jody, you might have an agenda also.
Do I?
To go over, you have an agenda as well?
I put together an agenda, yes, sir. Was not aware that you were.
Well, since I called it, I figured I better show up with one. It's a pretty simple agenda, is, you know, going over and figuring out the salaries and what we're gonna do based off of how we sit today. It's, with the LEARNS Act, the changes we have to make, the changes we talked about making, adding 24 and 25 to it, what changes we need to make. I know we talk about it every year, and we're never proud of the schedule that we have. It's something that we've been needing to, we're playing catch up on all the time, and that's not just with, it's across the board on classified, salary schedules, non-classified, everything. So let's take this opportunity, since we have to make a change. Let's try to put our best foot forward, see what we can do, and explore all avenues, and, you know, not just what we have budgeted today, but also what do we want to be, and what do we want to tell this district and our staff that we want to be. So that's kind of why I did this. And then also, you know, we can't necessarily compete with the big four, obviously, but what can we look at to try to position ourselves to make up the gaps? How can we do that? And just a few ideas. Don't know what all is possible or not possible, but at least we need to talk about it. I know also I have it down here for additional discussion. So we've heard from different various groups throughout the school, nurses and everything. So that's something that we need to talk about as well. And also bus drivers, transportation. How do we get the highest paid bus driver back in the office, being able to work on other stuff than drive a bus every day? So all these things fall under budgets and what we need to have. So that's kind of was my thought process in coming to this and going through everything. And first step is current state of affairs, or where are we? What?
Okay.
We've done a lot of numbers and presented this, so.
I have. I will say that when the request was for us to have a special session a couple of weeks ago, the topic was recruitment and retention. So I have asked the curriculum team that actually puts together our recruitment plan and retention plan to put something together to show you all what we actually do for recruitment and retention. I don't know if you want to see that. The way we set up at a job fair is at the back of the room. They brought all of that in for you all, and they put a slideshow together on recruitment and retention. Are we going to be able to show it? If you want to see that, but that's up to you.
I mean, I think it falls under the same, you know, not current, of course, but recruitment and retention. I mean, I think they fall in this.
Okay.
I'd love to see it, and I appreciate the table being put up back there, and so we visualize and we can know what you guys are doing. I mean, just for that, or is it a number of tables just side by side by side by side whenever you go to these things? Yes. And all about the same setup?
Yes,
more or less.
And I think it was talked about recruit and retention because it goes hand in hand.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't have the salary schedule and things in place, you're not going to get or recruit people, and you're not going to keep them when you do. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I've asked Amy to go through, Amy Carter, to lead us through this.
Okay. Do you want me to stand up or just sit down?
Whatever you want to
Can you
do.
stand
Okay.
up and sit down?
That's what?
I'm guessing that microphone is live because we are recording this.
Yes, we're good. Okay, so we just started with what drives all of us. And then we provided some data on slide 3. So the 2020 through 2022. So over to the far right, you'll see 33, 63, 72. So those are numbers that show up at that new teacher orientation, and most all of you attend that and usually attend lunchtime and come and be introduced during that time. The parentheses were new positions. So remember during ESSER funding time, we hired a lot of new interventionists along the way, or different positions to help support discipline paras or different things like that. The bottom, pathway to licensure, those are 5 different methods that we have to help someone be successful at being licensed in education. And so that's just showing, and those are alternative ones, that's just showing our number that Kelly actually tracks and follows up with each employee. So next, we have...
Sorry, I've got one.
Oh, yes.
Was the number next to them, is that how many teachers are in that
Correct.
particular?
Yes, so in RPEP, there are 10, ALPs, we have 17, yes.
And those are all new as well, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
Okay,
Not necessarily.
It's current staff.
You're fine.
it's just current staff.
So the ARPEP is a 2-year program.
Okay.
So we have some who are in year 1, and those are brand new teachers. For any of these programs, the minimum requirement is a bachelor's degree. So that is a requirement for a pathway to non-traditional licensure, or alternative pathway to licensure. So all of these people have at least a bachelor's degree, and then there are different programs depending on what they want to be licensed in, their background. There are just lots of different ways. So the ARPEP program would be year 1 and year 2. We have a couple in year 2, and then the rest are year 1s. The PPTL is a provisional professional teaching license. That's where people take their background. Like if I have a background in business, I can come in with a bachelor's degree. I can use that experience, get some documentation together, and there's some steps to go through, but get licensed that way based on your experience outside of education. Alternative or additional licensure plan, those are people for the most part that have either been with us and are licensed. They have to be licensed in some other area, but they're teaching something out of their area. So they might be a science teacher, but they're teaching math. ETPs, that is an emergency teaching permit. There are a couple of areas that it's they can't fit in anywhere else, and the state will give you a 1-year license based on your credentials and what we sign off on as a district on how we're going to support the person, mentor the person, that kind of thing. So for example, we may have a counselor. There's no pathway from a bachelor's degree in, say, psychology and some school experience to getting into a counseling degree. So anyway, that's an ATP, and a provisional is usually our out-of-state people coming in. They just don't have everything done for an Arkansas license yet.
Is the ALP the only one that would include an existing licensed teacher that is exploring a different,
Yes.
like you said, a different?
I would say the provisional they may have an out-of-state license, and they
okay.
simply haven't completed their Arkansas requirements yet.
Okay, the ones that are in our district, that's the 17, right? Or whatever.
They either were in our district, we needed them to teach something else, or they're coming from outside of the district, applying for a job and willing to explore a different area.
So you mentioned right there, you said we need them to teach something else, or how many of those would be probably, and I don't know if we know, but volunteer, like, hey, I'm interested in teaching over here, I see a need, or are we actually approaching some teachers and saying, we need you to change?
We very seldom ask someone to change.
Okay.
It's usually they're applying for a job that they are not necessarily qualified for.
They see there's an
And we're
interest,
looking- yes.
hopefully there's an interest there, but on occasion, we do have to say, we need you to, I guess.
So for
Based on-
example, we have a teacher who might have moved from the middle school to the high school. In order to do that, that teacher wanted to go, but in order to do that, they needed to pick up something outside of the area. So that's
yeah.
kind of one of those blends of you want to go here, but in order to do that, you're going to have to pick this up because we need a teacher for this
Okay.
area too.
Okay.
So I'd say that's
Yeah.
kind of a,
But we,
And,
but just so you're clear, to my knowledge, we haven't gone to an ex-teacher or a teacher and say,
You have.
hey, you are going to get this other certification because this is your only option, or we're gonna
Right.
fire you. Like,
Well,
we're
that's-
gonna, or let you
that's where,
go.
I mean, I was thinking retention,
Right.
are we losing any teachers because we go and say,
No.
we need you to
No.
move to the high
No.
school?
No.
When that happens, it's usually because there's a position they want, because they want to move up there and they've asked, can they apply? And I'm not certified.
Right.
So we allow them to do that.
Or, I would say, even if they don't go, if we see that maybe they are at a level where they could do well in this position, we could go to them and say, look, we have this position opening, would you be interested? We think that you would fill this type of, I mean,
We
that's
could do
potential.
that. Normally,
It's
it's
not really.
their choice.
Okay.
It's them seeking something different.
Okay, thank you.
How long does it take for them to complete the licensure process?
it varies by program. If I'm understanding you correctly, so the ETP is a 1 year only. They have to have a different pathway to licensure after that. So the provisional, if they're coming from out of state, I think they have a year to get those things done. The ARPEP is a 2-year program. PPTL is a 3-year program or process. I think that can be accelerated somewhat depending on the person. And the ALP, they have up to 3 years to complete, and they have to make progress each year. That's part of what we track. We have to resubmit every single year with documentation of progress. So they have to be taking coursework. They have to be passing exams. Those kinds of, all the things that are required for that area of licensure, so it varies.
So are most of those online classes that they do it on their own time after hours, or is it where we
I
send
would
them?
say it's a mixture, and it varies from person to person, because there are some academies in the summertime that we have, like locally here at JBU or in other colleges across Arkansas. We have some people that do the face-to-face in that. We have some that do strictly online, but that is up to the person. They get to choose where they go, what program they enroll in. We certainly help them. I mean, a lot of times we'll have a candidate and they're like, I'm willing to do this, but what's my pathway? And we help them explore those pathways. You know, here's an option, here's an option, here's an option, talk to these people.
Are there fees associated with the license?
If they go back to school, yes, they have to pay for their college. They have to pay for, ARPEP has an annual fee of, I believe, $1,500. That's through the state. PPTL, I don't believe has a fee. I would have to look. And ALP incurs no fee unless they usually have to take a test. That would be a fee they pay in any college that they have to, any college courses would be on them. And ETP, there is no fee for that because we are simply, that's kind of a stopgap, to be honest. And then the provisional, any fees that they incur would probably be the standard fees for licensure, you know, $75 application fee, background checks, that kind of thing. And then they have some professional development, some other things to go through. So
Does the
that,
district help with those funds, or
No.
those fees?
no.
It's all personal.
Even for in-house staff that might be, again, moving to another school or grading up, and we support the move, we don't offer, I mean, we don't help
We don't
with testing.
financially support it.
Okay.
Okay, next. So this is some current data. This just came out in an article that Mr. Wiggins read, probably, I don't know, last weekend sometime, and he reached out to the researchers at U of A. So this shows Siloam Springs independently, and then it shows our region, and then it shows Arkansas districts, so just other Arkansas. So that is teacher retention entering 22-23, and you can see we're relatively right in there, 73% teaching in the same location. That I don't know, is it yellow greenish something? They changed roles, so it's 6, 11, and 8, and then 21% in our district, in the region, and then in other districts it was about 18% that left their district. So we oftentimes feel that we have a high teacher turnover rate, and I know in my state Zoom meetings and curriculum meetings and things, we hear it from everyone, but this research group at the U of A is now putting it into numbers. And so we hear all over, we have a high turnover rate, and we hear it, but it doesn't always get out to the public. So this is new data that they're just coming out with. So it's nice to see.
And I can share, that actually came out of a national article that quoted research from Office of Education Policy at the U of A. And I have the national article that I can forward you. And I also have the research document from the U of A that I can forward you. But it didn't break it down to individual districts like this. So they actually, I reached out to them and they provided some specific data to us.
Yep. Okay, so the next one is also from the same report. So this is changes pre and post COVID. And again, it's nice to see it in a visual. When we look pre-COVID, we have our staying in the school is that darker purple, and then moving schools are changing is that lighter lavender purple, and then totally leaving the district is kind of a pink, and then the maroon is they're totally exiting Arkansas schools. So again, pre-COVID, you can see the 80, 79, 77 is maintaining, so that's relatively equal or a tad better than across the state. But then post-COVID, which is where we have been living the last few years, again, staying in the school, we're at that 77, so makes us feel a little good that we're relatively decent there. And we're certainly better.
And moves, and the light blue is also staying in district. So 77 and 7%, that's 84% of our people stay in district.
Yeah, right there. So that's just new, fresh data that they provided to us. And so that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the leaves Arkansas schools, that also includes retirees.
Yes.
Yes.
And the way they track this, or the way they put the information together, they had access to the Department of Education's eSchool, our data management system. And so they tracked by teacher number and figure out where those teacher numbers are actually employed each year. So it tracks all of ours to determine if they've left our district, or if they've changed a building within our district, or if they are nowhere in education in Arkansas any longer. Okay.
All right, good. Okay, so the next we're going to go to our recruitment piece. So the list on the right is the locations currently that Ms. Sanchez sets up recruitment table. You can see a picture there in the video, but you can also see it back here. Sets up the table, has graduates coming through, entering her little game that she has, gets information like salary schedule, information about Siloam Springs in general. We try to give community things as well as our district things to allow people to learn about where they could possibly move. So you'll see that list, and you'll see that earlier this week, April 4th, was her last one for the year. Miss Sanchez goes on most all of those. Miss Asensio Porter has attended a few of those. We've had a few principals attend with or without Miss Sanchez, and we kind of started that a few years ago, trying to get some of the instructional coaches attended last year. I don't know that any did this year, but we kind of spread the wealth, get some others in there. So that's our list for recruitment services. There is a QR code, and all of that's available back here on the back table, so you could actually use the QR code and see. It takes them through job postings, our future job vacancies, which that is a new piece we started, so that applicants that maybe are standing right there at the table can click right in there, and there's already kind of a blank spot for a future employment opportunity, and so they don't necessarily have to wait and check weekly for something to post and show that
On the slide before this,
yes,
with where we
locations.
Yeah, where are we actually having success in recruiting off that?
JBU, U of A, sometimes Fort Smith, sometimes Joplin, and sometimes Tahlequah. And to be honest, those are the ones that are closest to us.
Yeah.
And so when you get to Monticello, let's say, a lot of the people, the graduates at UAM, don't have a clue where Salem Springs is. And if they've grown up around there, gone to these UAM, their interest is, in general, usually to stay around there or Central Arkansas. So we go to those hoping for some diversity, to be honest. We don't get a whole lot of diversity at the colleges that are closest to us. So we try to expand that to appeal to diversity, because that's part of what the state asks us to do, and we have limited success.
Do we, and I still need to go back and look at the table, do we have information on Siloam Springs and just the area as well? And
Yes.
Yes.
is it just like, is it like local flyers?
We work with the
Like-
chamber to provide some of that.
The chamber book that they
Yeah.
publish, we usually get copies of those and include that.
Yeah. Do we get about as much traffic coming through our table as you see, like the tables next to you and everything?
Yes.
Yeah, it just, I mean, people stop and will at least talk
I
to you.
do, and like, in regards to like Henderson and Monticello and things of that nature, places of those natures, I try to say, hey, have you ever thought about working in Northwest Arkansas? And then I sell it to, this can be a home away from home. It's a smaller community than those around it. However, you still have access to the ball games, the malls, the concerts, things of that nature, and that's how I try to sell it.
So from a traffic standpoint, it depends on where we're at.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
But compared to our other,
Yes, Northwest
or are you
Arkansas,
talking,
yes.
well, I was thinking even compared to the other tables, or just even,
Yes, we do,
At the-
and.
or are they
another
just
thing-
walking by us? You know
Well,
what I mean?
If we're in Central Arkansas, Cabot, Little Rock, Jacksonville are gonna
Get the
have
big ones.
big crowds because all the folks know where those are and they're familiar with it, and if they're wanting to stay in Central Arkansas. But we compare nicely with the other schools in our area, wherever we're at.
And I gotta assume U of A and some of those are higher recruited than some of the other.
Yes.
Ready? Okay, we can go past this, that's just showing that. Okay, so we have recruitment, and then part of that, once we start onboarding, there are 3 phases. And this part actually falls under Dr. Leanne Carter's kind of umbrella. She sets up mentors for all new hires, and there are phases they go through, and I'm not gonna read all that to you, but we are one of the few districts in the state that offers a stipend to our teachers that mentor a new staff member. And so if they're a brand new teacher, that mentoring looks and is a little bit deeper focused, helping with instruction, visiting classrooms. As someone that maybe comes in the district that has 5 years experience or 10 years, they may not need that instruction support. They need, how do we work here in Siloam? What are our processes and procedures? And so we kind of have both levels of mentoring in that part. Next.
You have a copy of this slide presentation in the agenda that I put together for today. And I've also got copies, and I'll pass those down. But some of them have links, and if you go into the agenda and get to it, I think you can get to the link.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next couple of slides, we have a employee satisfaction survey. It goes out every spring. It's part of our family engagement process that's required by the state. And again, Dr. Carter is over this part. So this is just asking any employee in the district. They are not required to do this. So this just kind of shows a breakdown of how many years experience have they completed teaching and education. So that's just informational. The next one shows kind of a sort of a bar graph, employee satisfaction, the culture in the building, and we have physically safe and then psychologically safe. So the strongly disagree, which this is on a Likert scale of 1 to a 5. So the 1s are over in the light pink color, I guess that's pink. And then strongly agree, the 5s are the really dark maroon. And we had 135 responses really across all of those pieces. And again, it doesn't have to be every employee. We just put it out. We also put this survey out to parents in a part and to staff members. So it kind of goes out. This is only staff. Once they click if they're staff or parent, it takes them digitally to the survey they need to
The
complete.
responses, you had 135 out of how many?
Out of our teaching staff is about 360,
Not even half.
but it is voluntary. We put it out each spring.
Yeah.
And some buildings we have greater response than others. And this one particularly, last year, we had a lot of response out of secondary and very little response out of elementary.
Elementary. Yep.
That's kind of troubling to me.
That's interesting to me as well. How do
Because- Go ahead, Chris.
no, that's okay. I mean, you would think as much feedback as we get, or as, I won't speak for everybody else, as much feedback, I would love to see that number a lot higher. I'm wondering, why is it not? You know?
Right. Well, we don't
Not
force them
necessarily.
to take it.
You're right,
Yeah, we don't
right,
force
right.
them. It's just sent out and then it's
Right.
posted on the website as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And
And it's sent to their
communicated.
email?
Do what?
Is it sent to their email? Is that how it goes out?
I'd have to ask Leanne.
That's a good idea right now.
I don't think so.
We, the principals help us get it out, but I can follow up.
I think they said.
And we can we can suggest that it's done in a Wednesday faculty meeting. How long does it take to take the entire thing? Because there's more to it than this.
Oh, a lot more.
Hmm.
It's long. And
Okay.
that's probably
So
one of the
Maybe-
reasons.
yeah,
That's one of the
yeah,
reasons right
Sure,
there.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, well, it's under state required. There are certain components that have to be included. And so it doesn't take, we've all taken it at different times to play with it, like wording. And, like 7 or 8 minutes maybe, and that's if you're really reading it and paying attention to it. So.
7 or 8 minutes, and that's including the
That's a
lengthy
lot.
process that you're talking
Yes.
about. I don't consider that lengthy.
No.
No, I don't either. That's,
I think it falls.
Now,
on
it wouldn't
the-
ever take them 20 or 30 minutes. They want something quick, 2 or 3
Sure,
questions.
yeah,
But this, because it is for our family engagement piece in the state, they have certain components they want,
Sure, yeah.
so.
I think we've all heard, that the disgruntled or whatever, not feeling heard, but I've always said you've got to do this stuff. And,
Right, right.
And it's important to have it more filled out than not, and always having a safe voice to so that we have something to work off of.
Right.
Sure.
So you're able to break down secondary education, at least where.
Yes, we don't know who they
Right.
are, like it
That
doesn't
was
collect
my
their
next
email,
question.
but
Right.
it collects their school site because that's one of the pieces
One question.
that it asks.
I know, like my company, when we do these things, they come out, the president of the company comes out with an email and says, we've got, 75% completion rate. Let's try to hit, or have a goal.
Right.
Of let's hit 80% of this, and let's have, every building will have a party. I don't know.
Sure.
Something
Good
to
idea.
incentivize and let people know, we need this to help our culture and, all of that stuff, so.
Good idea.
Okay, thanks. This is also from the same survey. I choose to work in Siloam because, and then there are, we chose the top ones.
And they
So-
could answer more than one, so those percentages don't add up to 100.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Quickly, that doesn't add up to 100. If you were ever to consider leaving, what would that reasoning be? And so again, they can select more than one, but those are the top ones that are listed there. And again, from that roughly same 135 responses. Okay. All right, so now this is in here because we're gonna switch surveys We do surveys regularly. So this next survey are for people that are leaving us, separating, exiting the district. And for the first couple of years, Dr. Carter pushed this out. Now it's part of our HR role that Stacy Branson helps with. And when someone's exiting the district or leaving, it's part of that exit packet that she works through with someone. So again, it's how many years have they served in the profession? So that kind of gives us a breakdown according to years of experience on who's leaving and not. And again, there are retirements that are included in this part. So we can go to the next one because that's just percents. Which choice best describes your reason for leaving? So you can see family needs, a higher paying job, job dissatisfaction, and retirement are those top big ones there. And then a lot of people, you can type in, and so there's lots of like ones. One person responded something individually. So that helps us determine people's leaving rate. And then, what?
Is there a place for them to give like a comment if it's like just under family needs, like a specific care for a spouse or a parent or child care or something like that, to where you kind of had more of an idea of what does that family need?
I don't believe there's a response piece on that one. At the end of all the options it provides, where they can type in their own. Some people may type in the specifics, but we haven't necessarily asked for that. We always can.
So
And some people may share and some may not.
I hear child care's a big one.
Oh, sure.
So that's why I brought that up. Something to consider.
And I know you said that we do a lot of surveys, and we're concerned with the number of the answers we have. Could part of that be, is there action items that come out of these? Is there, at the end of the survey when it's taken, are there seen results of the results, the tallies?
Do the staff members see the results? Is that
Are there
what you're
action
asking?
items? Do we do something with the survey, or do we just read them?
Okay, so the exit surveys, we just really read those. Like Stacy has those, Dr. Carter looks at those, we kind of tabulate those and then kind of keep big items that we notice from that. That's not really shared out district-wide at all. The family engagement one, the prior survey that goes out with parents and staff members, and honestly I think there are some secondary students that even choose to fill that out. That is compiled, and I believe in the past Dr. Carter has shared that out with like principals and things during A-team trainings. I can't speak to this last summer, but
in A-team this past summer, we did take feedback that we received from each building as we were looking for new administrators, and we grouped all of that feedback into similar topics, and we took each of those topics as we went through our A-team training to write some goals around those topics for principals in their building. So maybe, let's say Allen didn't have a shift in leadership, but a lot of the feedback that we received from other buildings might also apply there. And so in that A-team training, we did craft, some principals did craft goals, and us as a district level employees as well, goals around, okay, so how are we going to approach this? If this is a need, how can I be a better communicator? How can we do, we have used that sort of information to set goals.
But building leaders are taking the information we're getting, you give them, and they craft goals that they feel like are pertinent to their building, right?
They're trying to address
based on the data.
Based on the data from these surveys, they're trying to craft a goal to address the needs that have been identified by the staff. Just like when Mr. Wiggins and us are talking about how we're going to pay people, this exit interview information goes a long way when you find out really why people are leaving. Are they leaving for pay? Are they leaving for other reasons? And what can we do? And those are things that, so you ask about an action item. those are the action items. Now, is that sent out there and communicated with 600 plus employees we have in the district specifically? Probably not.
So that's what I was just gonna say again, I work at a, bigger corporation, and when we do these, I mean, we will send emails, to every employee about kind of the overall look and feel, whatever it is, we want more chocolate ice cream. Well, we're gonna start serving chocolate ice cream on Fridays. I mean, so I think it would be good to at least think about some of those things around culture, or, whatever it is, to send out to every person and say, we understand that we need to improve in this area, and we want to do it by, we're gonna start whatever, I don't know what it is, but I don't think that would be a bad idea. And then let your principals and, they figure out those specific goals for their buildings and things, but.
And
Just a
different
thought.
surveys, different things, because obviously this stuff you want to send out to everyone.
Exactly.
On the exit stuff.
Yeah.
But started my question is trying to say, okay, why did we only have 135? And you had mentioned, we survey a lot. So then I started thinking, well, maybe it's because we survey a lot. Are we do they feel like it's being used, or if we survey a lot and they don't have any action items, then eventually I'm gonna quit filling out your survey. I've done that to many people.
Another one of our surveys besides this was the HRS, and it's a state one that comes out for high reliability schools, and we resent that out, and I believe Mr. Wiggins shared that with you all back before Christmas. And so some of what you're saying related to that survey, we've started that process. We worked with principals when we work over the holiday break, the Christmas holiday break. We came together as an admin team and started analyzing all of each building's data, and then they worked on goals for what that was. And one of the pieces directly relates to what you men are saying. And the teachers were saying in this survey that they don't ever get the feedback of what the survey is telling. And so all of the principals realized, oh, okay. And so this semester they've taken action on making sure that when they're requesting feedback or asking for input, that they're relaying that back out. That out of 64 of you, I had 32 responses, and here's what was stated. And so that has been a focus in that regard. So moving forward, I can see where our leaders, including us, can push more of that information related to some of these additional surveys.
And it's important for us to know that too, just because, there's a time lapse between you're making this change and complaints we still get, till
sure.
people recognize and some people never do, but being able to balance that.
And I have one more question on
okay.
that. So, that was kind of my point of diving off into family needs. There's 10 people who said they left the district for family needs. Are we diving off into those to go, could we have helped with the need and retained the person? And maybe the principals have already had that discussion, or, looked into that. I think
Oftentimes they do. There may be some that don't come forward with it, but
So, I'm gonna butt in here. A lot of the time, when we get a letter of resignation, it tells us in there something about where they're going. And so family needs, from the letters I can remember recently, are they're moving. Now, somebody has moving locations, somebody typed that in down there, but if they didn't type it in, that would fall under family needs in the big heading. So there are some things like that that are family decisions that fall under that. And we know that, well, we don't have it broken out, obviously, but those are the things that they tell us usually in that resignation letter that we review.
okay. Which choice best describes your most satisfying part of the work? And you'll notice the largest bar is team collaboration. And so then student learning, community and family support. So we can again look at all that information. One of our big three across the district for the last few years has been PLC, which is that whole professional learning community. It's building them into teams. So that is clearly taking hold with many of our employees, as that is a satisfying part for them. Okay. So then what is the least satisfying part? So again, we can look at the largest bar graphs. It could be administrative support, and then availability of resources, community and family support. So that's satisfying for some and not satisfying for others. And then student learning, satisfying for some, not for others, because those both show up in each one. And again, that's individual, definitely. Culture in the building or department that I'm assigned to. So colors do get somewhat skewed here. That blue color is strongly disagree, and the red is disagree. So those two smaller pieces of the pie are those lower level. And then neutral is the yellowy orange, and then green and purple would be that agree, and strongly agree, which would be our, 65.7% fall into that category, whereas 9.4% fall in that disagree two categories. So mission, vision, and values are always a focus across the district. So at least seeing the larger percent, can we always work on that? Absolutely. And especially moving some of those neutrals that might just be clicking the 3 down the middle, getting some better movement
What
in
is
that
that
part.
over on the side? It says 32 responses?
Yes, and remember, this is our exit, so it's people
exit.
leaving.
Sorry.
Yeah, people leaving. Okay, again, we have a bar graph about strongly disagree would be our 1, and strongly agree is our 5. So productive relationship with an administrator. Over in the 2 lowest categories, there's only 1. And then sufficient feedback on their teaching practices, only 4 in the lower 2 categories, while 20 in the upper, and then that 3 category is like right in the middle. And then recommend taking a job within the district to others. So we would have 5 down in the lower end or 19 in that higher end. So always room for growth. To me, I always look at that, in this case, 7, 8, 8. How could we move some of them off that kind of middle of the range? I'm just gonna click I'm okay and move on. So that's part of our exit survey. Next steps, some of the things that we're continually working on are better ways to market, better ways to improve our table each year. There's been changes every single year. We have setups. Some of that is outlined sometimes by the universities we go to, but streamlining our workflow. Part of that for this year became posting that future job role in our talent ed portal, partnering with universities for more student teachers. Dr. Carter, Ms. Sanchez, and I attended a U of A meeting at the co-op several weeks back, and that was a big discussion with the regional districts and making sure that they're spreading out their interns across all our districts. Retention, of course, more opportunities for that socialization and making people feel part of Siloam. Dr. Carter has attempted a couple of times now to have a tailgate party, and it literally stormed out on her this year or something and wasn't able to happen. So she's tried to do that. So we still have some of that in the plans. We're not going to give up on it. We'll have a tailgate at some point in time, but just some social events. That's just one of them that we keep laughing about, that we've tried it 2 years and its weather has nixed it both times. And then continue providing our mentoring piece for that 2-year cycle. just because we do know from all educational practices that mentors play a role in helping us retain our teachers. They need to feel that support, and that person kind of ends up being their buddy, so to say, that shoulder person that they can lean on and talk to regularly. So we continue with that.
Do we have, when mentors, if it's 2 years or whatever it is, do we collect from the mentor and the newer teacher how everything went? Do we find out, or at least try to find out some
Yes.
information?
Yes, so
What works, what doesn't, whatever.
they have surveys, and Leanne, we didn't put this in here. Leanne sets up mid-year
Good.
check-ins. So this past December, it was in the seminar room. They came in, and the first couple of minutes, they did just a quick, short little survey, like 2 or 3 questions about how they're feeling or what they need support in. And then at the end of the year, it's not face-to-face because that's so busy with at every building. So she does a survey at that point, and then mentors also have that same opportunity. And Dr. Carter set up a Google Classroom a couple of years back so that they can communicate back and forth regularly on what do they need as a mentor versus what are they seeing that their teacher partner needs in support that maybe they can't provide or they need more of.
Do you, which I put on there, and not knowing any dollar values that go with anything, not having that information, but would something like a loyalty incentive or priority points for advancement, would that help in retention and recruitment?
In the past, in the salary schedule, we did have a longevity stipend. It was phased out a number of years ago. Mr. Wiggins, you might know more about that than I do. But having served on personnel policies for some time, I can't say whether that was effective or not. That wasn't my role at that time. But I do know we phased that out, and that was, we hit a point where I think one person was receiving that longevity bonus after a while. Not because we didn't have, I don't, again, that's been a number of years. That was prior to Terry coming on board.
The
I know that's
PPC
been
actually
allowed.
voted to do away with that, and it's been more than 10 years ago. It's probably been 15 years ago. And they
I'd love
phased
to
out.
get some information on it, see what it was that we were doing then.
I think
I
one of
could-
the things that we did in the salary schedule at some point, to kind of do that in a different way was if you looked at our 10-year bump, it was a little bit more. That step increase was a little more, and kind of as a, maybe not longevity here, but just, you know, a little bit of bump to those who are gaining some tenure just in their career, so.
And so I have a proposal for a salary schedule that I'm gonna present to you all that would answer that to some degree. So I'll address that when I can go through all of that.
Oh, I'd still, yeah, just curious from y'all's standpoint of if you think that would help or not. And what?
It would
are
be
those-
hard to say, you know, the stipend that the mentor gets is, you know, a small stipend, but like I stated earlier, we're literally like one of 2 districts in the state of Arkansas that still pays a mentor to mentor somebody else. I know that's appreciated, and I believe that's $300. Leanne can correct me if that's wrong, but $300. So it's not a substantial amount when you consider it's an all-year process, but they do appreciate it. So, you know, could it happen, you know, and be across the board for someone other than just the mentor receiving a small stipend? It could be of benefit, but
And you're always gonna have people that jump jobs and are gonna switch jobs or wanna start somewhere and get to their hometown. That stuff's gonna happen.
always.
But also, you know, a lot of those, we're talking about money. And if we can't always compete across the board, you know, I'm just trying to think of other ways that, hey, it's not only a recruitment or retention, but it's also a way to balance between having to pay, being able to pay those that stay more and not paying that to everyone across the board.
Right.
And I want to say, just for the sake of saying it, I love hearing things like we're one of maybe 2 schools in Arkansas that do that. I love hearing stuff like that. So I think it's important, and I appreciate it.
Good. All right, that's it.
Okay.
So I clicked on the QR code link. Good job. Looks really nice.
Good. Yeah, we started that last year, right, Sanchez? The QR
Bambi
code.
is the creator of the QR code. We just, we collaborated and tried to get the welcome home feel, and Bambi educated me a lot about Siloam Springs and
Miss Siloam Springs herself.
Well, those are all really good links for someone who doesn't know our community to go learn about our community. So
Yeah,
pick
I'm
good
glad you
links.
clicked on the QR link. Oh, yeah, good. That's great.
Good job.
Yeah, we just wanted to share that to discuss a little bit about recruitment and retention, so thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for the
Yeah, I
questions,
appreciate
because there are a
what you're
few
doing
good
with-
things there about the feedback from the surveys and sending it out just mass across emails, not always relying on our administrators to get that out. We know they push it out because somebody from every school submits some things. It's just not always large quantities of people. So always have room to grow.
I do appreciate our table and the time you take,
Yeah.
when you go out. I know it's gotta be tough too, you know, you're traveling and you might not get people to come and show interest.
she does a great job.
Yes.
She does.
And I know it's always, we make fun of my little design background, but, I mean, there are some things that I see just from a professional, just, and working with booths and different things, and I would love to help in any way I can, especially at the beginning of the year when you say, you know, with their school regulations that you have to meet, or, I mean, it's little things, but it could help, so I would be interested in helping with that setup, at least the initial, you know, just look and feel and information and even the what we're saying, I mean, so. And of course, the font.
Definitely
Well,
font.
of course, the font.
Yeah, good.
Hey, I would come, I think it would be neat, would be neat to see, so. The bottle opener, yeah, I mean, your gadgets that you hand out.
Okay, so Brian asked when that starts, prep work for that. So we established a budget for it. It has not had a huge budget in the past, but we established a budget for it, and usually materials or anything new is done during the fall, because in the spring, then it hits pretty hard and quick.
Well, I'm just sitting here listening to Travis offering his help. I think we need to take
The budget might
advantage.
increase.
I think it may, but we should.
We're gonna have to find that money,
No,
so.
I'm joking, I mean, there's things, I think even with what we have, so.
And I think that'd be great to get him involved in that. I would appreciate your help on that. That's nice to offer. Thank you.
Okay, where would you all like to go from here in this meeting?
Grant, you want Jody to hand out all of his stuff?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. So I've been having meetings with, at different buildings with PPC, with Transportation Department yesterday. And I've been trying to talk about the LEARNS Act and where we're gonna go with our salary schedule. And this, for the purposes of this discussion right now, it's certified salary schedule. Classified is still up in the air a little bit, and Terry Reskavich, you'll notice, is not here today. She has been at a national conference where she was presenting, and she is on her way back today. She's not been here this week. So when she gets back, classified salary schedules are going to be at the top of our priority, because we hope to have something for next Thursday's meeting. So what I've given you there is some work Terry and I have done over the last 3 weeks or so since the LEARNS Act passed. And I'm just gonna walk you through this just like I have our faculty in our question and answer sessions. The first page is our current salary schedule. This is certified salary schedule. The numbers on the far left, bachelor step, master step, that's the amount of money that a person's salary increases on this salary schedule for every year down the list. And we go down to 23 years. So bachelor steps are $500, master steps, and then to the right of master steps are $555 in general. And you'll notice currently we have a big step at year 10 and a big step at year 22. And there's historical reasons for that, and some of them I may know and some of them I may not know. But that's the way it's been since I've been here, and that's been 22 years. All right, so that's currently. When the LEARNS bill came out, what it guaranteed was that every teacher in the state of Arkansas, certified teacher, would have a minimum salary of $50,000, and every teacher would get a bump of at least $2,000 from where they were on September 1st of this school year, September 1st, 2022. So that's their current year contract. So if you look at our current salary schedule, you will see that our teachers on a bachelor column did not get to $50,000 until year 13. So everybody that's 48 or below on this salary schedule would immediately be bumped to $50,000 for next year. Everybody that's 48 or above on this salary schedule would immediately get a $2,000 raise for next year with respect to what their current contract is. All right, so the second page. When we start talking about how this is going to affect us financially, you got to know where everybody falls on that salary schedule, how many we have at each place. These are our current numbers for how many we have that falls on each cell of that salary schedule. And you'll notice that we are a little bit top heavy. We have a lot of new ones, and we're a little bottom heavy. We have a whole bunch down there maxed out. So we have a lot of novices, and we have a lot of veterans with a lot of experience. And then we have a wide range in between. There's a little asterisk at the bottom that says this does not include teachers paid from federal funds. I also believe that it does not include people paid from state categorical funds. And what that means is we have teachers that get paid out of Title I, Title II, Title III. We have teachers that get paid out of Title VI-B, that's special education funds. All of those are federally paid people. We have teachers that get paid out of our state ELL fund, our state ALE fund, our state ESA fund, and those are not included because in Terry and I's discussion, we're trying to figure out what this law means for our district finances. And all of those are separate funds that have their separate rules and their strings attached to them. And so when we're looking at how this is going to affect our district finances, these are the people that we are looking at. Now, we were originally told that the LEARNS Act would fully fund those raises for districts, all of them, that we are going to be required to give. That is not true. They are not going to fund federal funded people. So we have, I'm going to guess, I think this is pretty accurate. We have between 18 and 20 people that are probably paid out of federal funds. So their raises under the LEARNS Act will not be funded from the state. We will find, and when I asked the Secretary Oliva at the co-op 2 weeks ago, well, right before spring break, that was not taken into consideration because the federal funds ought to be able to cover that. Well, our federal funds are not, they are what they are. So the LEARNS Act does not matter to our federal funds, and our federal funds do not matter to the LEARNS Act. So we will have to come up with, if there's not enough money in the federal fund to cover all of the people in that federal fund and their raises, then we will have to adjust that federal fund and probably pull somebody out of it. If we pull somebody out of it, that means they're going to come into district finances. So when they say that it's fully funded, it is not exactly fully funded, and there's going to be some money that we have to come up with as a district to pay for those required raises.
Because even though they're federally funded, Arkansas is gonna tell us we're still going to be required to meet the New Learns Act.
They did not specifically say that, but if we have a salary schedule that says everybody with a bachelor's degree is gonna get paid this,
Yeah.
just because they're federally funded, doesn't mean that they're, I personally would not even
Right.
want to consider not paying them
Right.
the same.
I agree.
But I don't know from a legal standpoint where that would leave us either.
How many did you say? 18 to 22?
Terry's not here.
There's a difference of 36 in our numbers.
I think between
So
between ESA
categorical
and
So between
federal.
federal and state,
There's
36.
36.
But we will get funding on the ones who are coming out of the state funded. They did include those. So it's somewhere, it's probably close to half of that. It's probably about 18 to 20.
and one thing to remember, that the fund, what they're gonna pay us, like he said, was what was established on September 1st of 22. So if we don't have enough money in federal funds and we have to move somebody out and we move them to here, they're not funding that person, because on September 1 of 22, they were federally funded. And so they're not, just because we move them back over here, they're not gonna say, oh, you got one more, let's give you the more money. It's like, it is what it is.
So page 3,
Let's
Yes.
stop on that, just
Okay.
so I can get my mind straight. So if we have to pull somebody out of federal money to
to the district.
district money, and what you're saying, we won't get the funding for the additional staff member, but we also will have to pay all the money of the staff person.
Yes.
Okay, so say they make $45,000 a year, and then the state's paying the 5 to get to 50. And then we shift them from federal, so it's gonna cost us 50.
Correct.
Plus benefits.
The
Plus
full amount.
benefits,
Yeah.
which really is about 80.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so page 3. I asked Terry to put together a salary schedule that would meet the law and have the least impact on our finances. And so page 3 shows a minimum salary of $50,000 every place that we were below $50,000. That's the gray boxes in the top left. We're on page 3. And then every place else, she took the cell that was in there in our existing salary schedule and increased it by $2,000. Chris, you have a question?
No.
There was a sigh.
It was no.
Okay.
You're good, man. Go, keep going.
Okay, so
Wheels are just turning, that's all.
So this would be, theoretically, this is what I asked Terry to do, would have the least financial impact on us. Everybody would come up to 50 in the gray, and then every other cell in the existing salary schedule would have plus $2,000 added to it. Now, after I asked her to do that and she produced it and she went away, it dawned on me that actually there's a different way of looking at this, because actually the law says that they have to make $2,000 more than they did on September 1st of this school year. Well, this would be $2,000 plus whatever step increase for a year. So it's actually, it would be giving everybody a little bit more than $2,000. It'd be giving them $2,500 in the bachelor scale column. It would be $2,555 in masters and everywhere else. So it would be that $2,000 plus the step increase they would have gotten automatically. All right, and I made that clarification because I'm going to say something in a minute that might throw you if I don't.
And this was provided a long time first.
Yes.
Before any other information.
Yes.
Was given, so
Yes.
that caused the most concern.
Well, I provided 2 different pieces of information to all of them and then told them we were going to hopefully land somewhere in the middle. I will say that I've met with, so there's 17 school districts in the co-op area, is that right? 16, 16 school districts in our co-op area in Northwest Arkansas. 4 of those districts, this has very little effect on, because 4 of those districts have a salary schedule that starts really close to 50 or above 50 at bachelor first year. So the law doesn't really mean much to them, except that every one of their teachers in the district is gonna get a $2,000 raise. All right, the other 13 of us, 12 of us,
12 of us.
the other 12 of us met at the co-op last week to talk about what we are looking at and how this is gonna affect us and what our salary schedules might look like. So after we got there, it became obvious that there's really in that 12, there's a couple of different groups. So if you go back to the first page, there are multiple school districts in Northwest Arkansas and across the state whose bottom number on a bachelor column is below $50,000. There's multiple of them whose bottom number on the bachelor column is below $48,000. So when they try to put together that minimalist schedule like we did, everything is going to be $50,000. Okay? And then going across, most of it is going to be $50,000. And there's going to be very little room for those districts to do anything from a salary schedule standpoint to reward anybody for years or education. Now, luckily, we are not necessarily in that situation because at least halfway down, and a major portion of our salary schedule was above 50. So we have some options. We are also lucky in that we're growing. And so we had some growth funds this year. And that will equate to a little bit more money in our budget next year. All right. So after page 3 is page 4. My next request for Terry was to take the existing salary schedule and leave all the steps just like they were, $500, $555, but start at $50,000 in the top left-hand corner, and then keep all the increments going across and down the same dollar amount. That's what this represents, page 4. And the last couple of question and answer sessions I've had, I've asked them to write on this page, not possible, because I didn't want there to be any confusion after I left. But what this in effect does, instead of giving most of our people a $2,000 raise, it gives everybody the same raise as that first year teacher up at the top left-hand corner. We would be going from $43,250 currently to $50,000. So that's an increase of $6,750. Thank you. I get confused every time I say that. $67.50. So if we gave everyone a $67.50 raise, that's what this salary schedule would look like. Number 4, page 4. So that, I'm going to show you in a minute what that would cost the district, okay? But it's more than we can afford. So after I did that, or after Terry did that, I asked her to brainstorm with me, with us, options somewhere in between, okay? So, when we were trying to come up with options in between, we know we can afford the one with all the gray boxes. Page 3. We know we can afford that. And this meets the letter of the law. So, in our minds, we had a couple of different options for trying to find something in between on our salary schedule to do what we needed to do and to give our people raises by years. We could either take these numbers between 50,000 and 58.3 in that bachelor column, because we know we can afford those, and spread that gap out over that 23 years and lessen our steps from 500 to whatever that comes out to be. We could do that. Or we could take our number of years and shrink them down to about half and see if we could do that with the same steps of $500. So the first one we looked at was reducing our number of years to like 12 or 13 years, keeping the $500 steps going down. And when we looked at that, that was going to be expensive as well, because not only would we have $6,700 raises at the top, but immediately they would start earning $500 raises going down. And so that number continues to get really big. And then most of our people would max out at 13 years and be making the maximum amount of money that they can make. And that would be more expensive than what we could afford. So the next one was to take that gap, 50,000 to 58.3, and spread it over 23 years and redefine what those steps are. Instead of $500, make it something less. When you divide that difference by 23 years, you get something in the neighborhood of $320 per year. We put that, I haven't given you this, we put that, it was going to be expensive as well. So what we came to was, I'll take you to page 5. Our teachers have not seen this yet. So you all are going to see this before they do, because I want to get your feelings on it. Instead of making them $320 equal steps all the way down, we talked about phasing in from 200 to 500 on the bachelor column by year. And the thinking behind that was because from our teachers we heard it's not equitable that a 0-year teacher is getting a $6,700 raise, where I've been here 23 years and I'm going to get a $2,000 raise. Okay? I hear that. It is not equitable. I didn't write the law, and that's what the law says is going to happen. So to help balance that out and to give some people at the bottom a little bit of a win, we came up with this step system that gradually increases as they go down through the years, and we looked at adding years 24 and 25 at the bottom so that it gives a win to those at the bottom of the salary schedule as well. All right. What that would look like is on page 6. That would be a proposed salary schedule based on those increases per year. Yes, sir.
So on the step raise, the districts set the step raise? I thought that was state driven.
No, it's district driven.
Really?
Yes. And in the past, when we've given raises, most of the time we've given raises to the base, the top number. But there have been years, especially since Terry got here. Since Terry got here, there have been a couple of different years that we gave raises to the base, but we also increased our step. So we have worked our way up to that 500 per step.
So all districts
Are not there.
step raise.
Some are lower, some are higher. Okay, I want to give you a sense of the math behind this. So that's what this page is,
Not times knots, not.
page 7. This is the math between the final numbers I'm going to give you here in a second. This is just the bachelor. This is what we put together for just the bachelor's column. So on the far left is our original step, that's current number of years. Original bachelor, that's our current salary schedule for the bachelor's column. The Learns Act with regular steps. This is the one I said is not possible. It's moving up to $50,000 on the first one and going $500 all the way down. The next one would be the total raise for everybody in the district on that one, on that salary schedule. The one that I said was not possible. Everybody would get $67.50 raise. The next one, per Learns Act, this is the minimum that's required by the law for every step on the bachelor column. The next one past that would be the raise amount for each person in each of those steps. And then I'm going to do the proposed steps, the colorful one that varies from 200 to 500 all the way down is the proposed steps, starts at 200 and works its way down to 500. And then the proposed bachelor is what I'm proposing as our salary schedule for that column. And then the second to last column, the general fund raise, that's the amount that each of those positions on that salary schedule would cost us for next year, in addition to what the money from the state. So that is the change in our district funded salaries for each of those slots. And you'll notice that it starts at 0 because they guarantee the 50,000, and then it goes up, 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 and somewhere about the middle it starts going down, 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 and then at the end it goes up a little bit again. And then the total raise is the far right column, That's the total raise that each person would get, each slot on the salary schedule would get for next year. And you'll notice a couple of them down there are below $2,000. Well, by law, we have to go up $2,000, but if they increase a step raise of $400, that $1,600 and $400 gives us $2,000. And then our veterans who have 25 years would get $2,600 raise. So that gives a win to that large group at the bottom, a little bit more win than has to be there. It does what's required at the top, and it gives everybody in between a little bit of a win. Now, when I've talked to our staff, I've reminded them everybody is getting at least a $2,000 raise. That's a good thing. So I went back, I had said in a couple of meetings that that's the largest raise we've given. I'm incorrect in that. There were a couple of times in the early 2000s that we gave more than a $2,000 raise, but it was because of the Lakeview lawsuit and a sudden influx of money across the state into education. So it's the largest raise, $2,000 would be the largest raise we've given in a long time. Okay, so where does all this leave us financially? Page 8. The first column, 23-24, Learns Law steps frozen. This would be the absolute minimum amount that we could get by with and meet the law, including that step in the $2,000. It tells you what our salary would be at the very top, less this year's salary expenses equals the new salary expense to the district, $1,363,000 if you're following me, times benefits. So the actual cost with benefits is $1.7 million in the dark line.
Where's the 1.25?
So 0.25 is what we pay in benefits. So if my salary is $100,000, it cost us $25,000 in benefits, and that is insurance, retirement, and
Social Security.
Social Security. So all the things that we have to pay for every employee actually adds up to 25% of their salary.
Right.
So
So the 1.25, that's an accurate percent.
yes, it should be exact. So 1.7 million is actually what that would cost in new money for us to do. Now the good news is, Learns reimbursement, we have an estimate at this point what that's going to be, and that estimate is $1.414 million. So we're going to be short a little less than $300,000 on what it's actually going to cost us. And then, a good news, we have growth funding from this year that equaled about $940,000 because we had 150 new students. And that will carry over into next year as per student funding. So we know that our budget next year will increase by at least $940,000, our revenue. So we actually have the 1.4 and the 940,000 kind of to play with. That's about 2.3. And so in this case, we would actually come out to the good $650,000. So we can do better than that. The next column, 23-24, Learns Law with current steps. So that is giving that $2,000 raise plus the step. And it actually matches Terry's salary schedule that she put together on page 4. No, I'm sorry, that's not right. On page 3. On page 3. Everybody gets $50,000, everybody gets $200 or $2,000 raise, everybody gets a salary step.
And that's with the existing step salary.
Yes. Well, no.
No?
Yeah.
Yes, but remember, it's $50,000 for the first 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that one, bottom line, we come out to the good, about $470,000. So we can do better than that. I'm going to skip all the way to the far right. The far right is the one that I said is not possible. That's raising everybody $6,700. That ends up in the middle costing us $3.5 million. After the money we are going to get, it ends up costing us $1.2 million that we don't currently have. So, could we do that? Yes, because we have several $1 million in the bank as carryover. But that would be an ongoing cost, and that 1.2 million would deplete our carryover every year, and by year 3, we would be close to physical distress. Okay?
That's leaving all other budget lines
The same, yes.
That's not
Correct.
making changes that we can
Correct.
do.
Correct. So the one that's kind of in between is the one I said is our proposal. We're starting at small increments going down and increasing to a bigger increment at the bottom, and that's the third column. So it's 23-24 Learns Law with proposed schedule. And we end up coming out about $91,000 to the good, according to this. Now, I'm going to qualify that because that does not include any federal employees. That does not include, and we may end up inheriting some of those. It does not include any new employees, any new positions. So I know as of right now, because based on our numbers, we're going to have to add at least one elementary teacher next year to accommodate growth, maybe 2. And that's before we get into the summer and actually know our numbers better. But I know we're going to have 1. So one teacher is about $80,000. All right, so in our mind, that column turns out to be about even. And then if we add any more folks than those 1 or 2 from federal programs or new positions, we're going to be a little bit over what we need to be.
So you say 80,000, is that 80,000 with the new learners deals?
Yeah, that's an estimate,
Yeah.
depending on what that person actually comes in with.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get to is we have to put all the numbers out on the table. I mean, this doesn't include if we do anything sped or anyone else.
Right.
That we have to do, we need to do. And that's what, we gotta have the whole full picture of what that dollar looks like before we can really even say this gives us,
So
we can do it or we can't do it, because we can't operate without lunch people.
right,
We
absolutely,
can't operate without bus drivers.
right. All right, and you bring up a good point.
We can't operate without nurses.
We are only talking about certified people right here, okay? And we're only talking about certified salary. And there's nothing in the Learns Act that has anything to do with classified, even though they told us they were going to address it. And then when we brought it up during when it was in legislation, when it was still being discussed, they assured us that they would deal with classified people as a separate bill. They haven't, they're not going to, okay? They're about finished. Today may be the last day. They told us that they would build it into the foundation funding. They didn't. The bill is out there. We know what it's going to look like. The recommendation last fall from the House Education Committee and the Senate Education Committee were to increase it to $8,100 or $8,200 per student. We are currently at $7,413. The recommendation now in the legislation is $7,600. So it's far short of what they recommended last fall. Our plan, when Terry and I were putting this together, was we're going to deal with certified, and then whatever comes out of that foundation funding increase, we're going to apply that to classified. That number is not as big as I'd hoped, okay? We're going to end up getting $205 per student in additional funding on that, which is separate funding from this. Of that $205, the state required us to increase our insurance contribution last year on every employee. They funded us for half of it last year because of difference in calendar year and school year. They funded spring of this year at $67 per student, gave us extra money, but they didn't fund a full year. So now going forward, we're going to have to fund a full year of that extra insurance, which is about $140 per student that has to go toward that. So I'm throwing numbers out, I'm sorry. From that $205, we can take off $70 because that's going to go to insurance because it's going to be required. So we got about $130, $135 to play with per student. So before Terry left Friday, we figured out how much money that's gonna be. It's gonna be between $500,000 or $600,000 extra. We can give a set percentage to all of our classified people. And as we started looking at that, that was not going to meet our immediate needs in some specific areas. And I spoke to transportation yesterday. There's 3 areas that we need to address desperately: bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and classroom aides. And so Terry has started working, she's not finished, on putting together a mixed proposal where everybody that's classified would get a 4% raise, and then specific targeted areas would get more than that. And those 3 areas that I just mentioned would be 3 that get targeted and get additional funds. If you take all the money that we, under this proposed column, that would be going to certified, it would represent about an 8.5% raise across the board. Now, some would get a whole lot more than that, some would get a whole lot less than that, because that's the way the law is written. But about 8.5%, that's really good. We could not, with the money we're getting from the foundation, we could not match that in classified, but we could get around 7% across the board, but we'd rather target it in the places that we know need specific help. Now, you all hire me, and you all hire Terry. I guess I recommend Terry, but you all have us in place to work through the finances and give you proposals, okay? I can tell you, we can do what a lot of schools are gonna do. We can do page 3. We can do that comfortably. We can meet the law. We can do it comfortably, have money left over, and then we can take next year with our personnel policies committees and board members, who all ever wants to be involved, and rebuild salary schedules. Okay? We can take a year to do it. I'm also going to throw out the option of taking the proposed salary schedule that ranges with salary steps from $200 to $500 on bachelor, and as I've got it outlined here. And I think we can afford that. It's going to be tight. It's going to use basically every available dollar we have, and it may go over a little bit. But I actually think we're going to finish this year okay, and I think we'll be okay budget-wise to do that. 1 is a safe play, and it gives us a year to work things out. 1 is an immediate, and it provides a salary schedule and something to move forward, and we can change that later. We can add to it. We can change those steps to where they're even gradually over a period of time as we give raises. But it gives us something where some of those people at the bottom get a little bit more of a win than they would in the other category, and we're not giving $50,000 for the first 10 years, or showing that at least, to a brand new teacher. So what this law has done, this is me talking, it has put us all on a level playing field for the first year teacher. Somebody coming fresh out of the U of A, if they come to work for us, they're gonna make $50,000. If they go to work for West Fork, they're gonna make $50,000. If they go to work for Springdale, they're probably gonna make $52,000. If they go to work in DeWitt, they're gonna make $50,000. So it's leveled the playing field for a brand new teacher. So the thing that's gonna differentiate folks is there a salary schedule in place, and how does it work? And a lot of our schools, I'm telling you, are not going to have a salary schedule in place at all, because they can't afford to do it. Because once they get that money to get up to 50, they don't have anything else. We are fortunate that we can do something. It doesn't look exactly like it did before, but it is something that we can build off of. Now, am I rushing this? A little bit, but there's still a law in place that we have to have our personnel policies ready by May 1st. And that means board approved. This is a board policy. So if we're gonna change our salary schedule, there's steps that it has to go through. It has to go through PPC. There's timelines for that with 10 days. And it has to come back to you all to be approved, and then it has to be in place by May 1st. So unless you all give me a different direction, I'm giving you a couple of options.
I think we need to get to work then, and have meetings, go over this stuff, and
So I've been having meetings with our staff. I have not given them this specific plan because I wanted you all to see it first, and I wanted you to give me feedback on it. I don't want to go out and present this if it's not something you're in support of.
Okay, clarification real quick. We've added years 24 and 25
Yes.
to your tentative proposed. We currently do not have that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we used to end at 22, and year before last, we started with PPC and promised them over the next 3 years, we would add those years so that all of our salary schedules, classified and certified, go to 25. And so I thought that was kind of a way to give a win to our veterans, is to add those extra years, and it gives them a little bit more than that 2,000 at the bottom of the salary schedule.
And you said this needs to go through PPC first?
It can happen in two different ways. Either the PPC can propose it to the board, and if that happens, you all could vote on it immediately. But that has to come out of PPC and be their idea presented to you. And sometimes we run it through PPC that way and let them present it to you. The other way is for the board to recommend something to PPC. And at that point, you're not saying this is it, you're recommending it. They get 10 days to review it. And then it's back to the board for a vote, and they can come and speak on it.
So they could essentially say, no, we don't like it.
Yes, they could. After that 10 days, though, the board is free to vote it either up or down or however.
And when I say we need to get to work, I'm not saying you aren't working on this. I'm saying there's not a lot of time.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest,
I'm not meaning no one's doing anything on this. My hope is that we as a district look at everything and say that we are truly trying to be balanced and be fair and give the most to our teachers that we can. And that includes not just looking at it and say, based off this, if we want to keep everything as it is and not invest any extra into it but what the government gives us, then is that what we're doing best? I mean, right now we're building admin buildings. Talk about building baseball fields. We have always been a very supportive board and had the community, and I want to do the same in making sure that, hey, as we talked earlier, if we take 1%, 10%, whatever from different areas, is there more that we can do that helps set us up, helps set our teachers up, to be more competitive? We can't be the big four, but we still live in Northwest Arkansas, and we're not cost of living of Mountain Home or El Dorado or the ones that we're comparing ourselves for, that we look at your salary and everyone else's salary and say, hey, we're trying to catch up to them because we're still behind on them, and just taking the opportunity to say, what is the most we can do with our time? We might not be able to catch up to the others, but I do want to make sure that we do our due diligence to do the most that we can. I know in the financials, on our budgets, we're $2 million off. These numbers that we're seeing are based off of a budget that we plan on spending. How far off are we? What of that can we close the gap? And that's a Terry question, I know. And we all love that she's conservative, and that's a good thing for a district. I don't want to be the other way. But what is the best case scenario that we can provide our teachers and administrators? I've talked about y'all's salaries and as a whole, just looking at everything as a whole, because it is a group. We do need to address so many people. It does us no good to do this and ignore these people.
I agree.
We have to address everyone, and I'm willing to be up here, just like we were hiring a superintendent in those days, every
That's what
night
it
of
is.
the week, if I can be of assistance to help, to try to just know that our teachers know, our staff know, and our board knows, we're giving you everything we have, that we're confident in supporting that when we vote on it.
So a challenge with that is we realistically don't have any clue what the final numbers are gonna be that they're gonna actually provide us. They've given us an estimate on what they're gonna give us for the LEARNS Act payment, and that's based on a data pool from September 1st of this last year. It was a draft. I have no idea when we're gonna get that final number. I'm hopeful with all this with whatever planning we've done and whatever we might do, that it's accurate, but I don't have any guarantees of that. And the per student funding has not passed yet. I'm hopeful that it is at least what they put in the bill. I'm hopeful it didn't get amended down. I'm hopeful that it might get amended up, but we won't know that until that bill passes. And so there's some moving targets there, and that's not on our end. We have, as you said, we have a budget for the year. That budget is based on estimated revenues, and we stay within those estimated revenues to build our budget. Have we been off? Yes. But we've also had a lot of grant money that's come in through the COVID years that's offset district expenses. So even this year, I asked Terry before she left, best case scenario or best estimate, where are we gonna finish the year? She thinks we're gonna finish about $1 million to the good. But about 700,000 of that is, like, once again, grant money that has come in this year that's offset expenses. That's not money we can count on for something like salaries, because it's not necessarily gonna be there next year. So are we gonna end the year with a positive balance for the year? Yes, probably. Maybe $1 million. It may end up being more than that, depending on one of our biggest months for collections is May. We don't know what that number is until June. And so there's a lot of fluidity in all of that. And it's not like a lot of businesses where there's a pretty steady revenue source and a pretty steady expense. Our revenues are up and down by months based on when tax collections are. So we're kind of at their mercy. And the May 1st deadline, I can't help, because that's in law. And some of that may go away with the LEARNS Act, and I'm not sure if the May 1st deadline is actually in the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act or if it's a separate bill. But if it's in Teacher Fair Dismissal, it would go away, but not this year.
So, I mean, I'm obviously used to working in a variable budget because I don't know what I'm building next month. So I understand that, but also we can run it tighter to some degree because we do have, as you mentioned before, the surplus that we don't want to rely on or use. But if the variable is, I mean, we're talking $2 million last year variable variance. We can close the gap some, and if it is closer to that, you do have that to fall back on to make it up on the other years. So I mean, it's not we go in default if we are too tight on that. And everyone wants to be close, on the plus side.
Right.
I guess. As we said earlier, I think we just want to make sure whatever we do, we're able to do the best we can to provide for our community and staff.
And we have had a large carryover. But I'm going to remind you that we've also kind of obligated about half of that carryover to a potential building project with baseball, softball, and tennis. And so that carryover we've had for a number of years is going to be cut in about half at the end of this year in July for next year's budget. So that Does that make me nervous? No. But if we play it too close and we have a couple of years where we go into negative, then I'm gonna get nervous really quick. So there's a balancing act. And I know we've got to take all of our positions in consideration, and believe me, we are trying to figure out a way to take the money that we think we're gonna have available and use it for certified and classified the best way. And that's what the proposal's gonna be, or will be. But we've also got to take into account all of those other things that we've got going on, from administration building to baseball, softball, tennis, to all the ESSER funds going away 2 years from now, and all of those positions that we've hired either coming back to us or being eliminated. We've started that process already. And then we're paying for a whole lot of curriculum stuff out of ESSER right now that is going to come back to us as a district cost as well. So all of those things have to be considered. I'm at your disposal, and I will make Terry at your disposal to do whatever we need to do to go through budget issues. We have about, I gave you a percentage earlier today, and it's probably not right. I think we have about 75 to 80% of our budget that's spent on salaries and benefits total. That leaves us about 20% that we pay for everything else, whether that's utilities, new buses, curriculum, supplies, cleaning supplies, custodial. All of those things that we have that are not directly related to salary and benefits is about 20% of our budget. Could we cut all of our budgets? 10%? Maybe. But if we cut that 20% piece of the pie, all of them, by 10%, that's 2% of our budget. And that's a number, it's a significant number, but it's not gonna go a whole long way in salaries and benefits, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's not how we operate either, we trust our budgets are needed to some degree, and so you can't just do it sweeping. But, is there any waste that we have out there? And that's some of the things I talked about in there, and y'all probably can fully justify it. But for me, I'm signing probably over half these checks in here for reimbursement for miles a month. That's a lot of money, and the people are going to the same places. 2 or 3 people going to the same place, driving their own car, doing all that. Me, for my company, I look at it and say, hey, you take this company car, you can carpool, I'll pay mileage. I choose to drive by myself, so I take the cost on myself, because I don't want to ride with everyone else. And just, that's pennies in the bucket, but it's still, there's money, pennies I'd like to put in someone else's bucket. If we're wasted. There's areas I think that we could take the opportunity to also work out. It's a policy. Right. I get that. Things, just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean we can't change it. And that's just little things. It eats me up every month signing these things. When I'm looking at them and people are going, well, they all went to the same place. That's just one of my pet peeves, being a business owner, of saying.
So some of them, let me address that really quick. Some of those that you see on a monthly basis are employees that drive their own car, building to building, to do their job. So our technology building people, we have one technology vehicle for eight people, and their jobs require them at times to be in different places. We pay their mileage when they're driving their own vehicle during the day. We have secretaries that take money to the bank on a daily basis. We pay their mileage because we don't have a car. We don't have a company car for them. We have vans. We have vans that we are hauling kids in all the time. So some of those, I know what you're talking about. You see the same names over and over again, and that's our employees that are actually driving.
I will say this. So some of those little things, when we talk about culture, if we have the ability, if we have two people going to the co-op and for a training, and when the training end, one of them needs to go to Fayetteville for a doctor's appointment or whatever, to say you either carpool or we don't pay your mileage, that could be a real culture killer, because it is one of the little benefits that we don't ask people to spend their own money to do their work. And so those are one of the things I know that we think about. And if you remember, we upped the money that we were paying because the amount we were paying per mileage did not reflect what it actually cost to operate a vehicle. And we just did that year before last. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't mind taking a look at, and I know my 5 directors have all sat down and taken a look at, and we have made some cuts as we're gonna move forward already.
I know that those things, some people appreciate those things, and it's games and different things as well, but yes, that's just how my mind works, of what can we do to maybe eliminate this, put every penny into this. This is what I think our focus needs to be, because, I mean, we've focused on the other areas, and I just want to clean this up and see what we can do. Ultimately, I think, this has been a pretty long meeting. I think we could have another one. I'd like to see some of the just dollar values, and some of the ideas we're throwing out there. Give you all a chance to look at and just say, that's a horrible idea, or that's something that we might like and like to incorporate, and see what that would look like to us.
Okay.
When's the new budget? That's,
Second, it can be.
what is it?
Next year's budget?
Yeah,
September.
that we approved at that point.
Yes.
Question on the LEARNS Act thing that I was thinking about. So it's funded for how many years?
They tell us that the amount of money that they're going to give us this year, that $1.4 million, will be static from now on, that they will continue to give us that. They'll have to, because it's going to be an ongoing cost. That $6,700 bump for that first year teacher, that's going to be here next year, that's going to be here the year after that. So that $1.4 million based on September 1st of this year is going to keep going forever to help fund those raises.
No.
Yes.
One thing that they're not gonna adjust either is the fact that if you have somebody that got funded at the $2,000 level and then comes in and maybe they're at the $4,000 raise level is what they got to get to 50, you're still only getting the 2,000. So your district, even though theoretically the total salary is less, the amount of raise the district has to come up with, they're not gonna change that amount. So it's whatever it was on September 1st of 22, and there's no change in that amount. And if we have to add 10 staff members in 5 years, then we are 100% on it's our responsibility to take care of it, because they're not gonna add any money to that 1.4 million.
Do y'all have, can we have a list of where we're short to? I mean, don't know,
A list of what?
what we need to hire, where we're short this year compared to the others? Essential.
Like how many bus drivers we're short? How many
Bus
whatever?
drivers,
Nurses,
sped, nurses.
Well, it fluctuates. We can give you a point in time number.
We're fully staffed nurses.
we're fully staffed right now.
With school nurses.
How many is that? What is fully staffed?
One in every building, plus a float nurse and a nursing director.
Is that eight?
And
eight,
a
nine?
Medicaid nurse.
Well,
No, okay. Never
Did
mind.
we have one leave?
we had one
Actually,
leave,
But it's still-
and Lori, our nursing director, came to me, and she felt like it was in the best interest of her department and the school district that since COVID was over, she felt like she could take that role on, that Medicaid nurse role on herself, And so she has taken that role on and we eliminated that position. But every building has a full-time nurse, plus we have a float nurse, plus we have Lori as well. So that's, we are fully staffed.
I think, for me personally, you've mentioned the three kind of areas that were important. I think, for me, nurses should fall in there.
So
Maybe it's 4, maybe it keeps growing to 7, 8, whatever it is, but, I think they're key as well.
to address that a little bit, there was a bill this year that would have brought nurses, school nurses across the state up to teacher pay. We, according to the testimony, we are one of the few states that don't have that in place. Missouri and Oklahoma and Texas all have that in place. We are on par. Our nurses' salary, you all have actually approved raises to our nurses' salary schedule at least twice in the last 4 years, 5 years, since you've been here. And we are on par with everybody around us as far as school districts. Now, you all tell me to put them on certified salary schedule, I'll do it. That came up in the legislative session. It was debated. They did not provide any money for it. So that's why it didn't pass, was because there was not a funding mechanism for it. And one of the legislators specifically said, you're proposing something and you don't have a way to pay for it. She came up with a way to pay for it, but it was outside of the regular school funding formula, and that's why it got beat.
That's where, again, I've said this 100 times, but, you know, you told me to put it on here, I'll put them on there. I like to know what that is.
Yeah, what would that,
What are we
what would that
talking
mean?
about? I don't know.
We're
I
probably looking at times 8, we're probably looking at,
And you don't have to say, you don't have to throw a number out now, Jody.
Because there are
But
different years.
that's something that I would like to be interested, I would be interested in seeing.
Yeah, it would be too.
I can get that.
Yeah, I don't want you to.
And I agree with Grant. I'm willing to do extra, work sessions, whatever, because I'm not comfortable giving you a, hey, I think this is what we should present. I'm not there yet. I'd like to study this a little bit more, get a little bit more feedback from you, and that's just me though.
I do appreciate this.
Oh, yeah.
For me.
Okay, so I need some guidance.
Okay.
I'm meeting with high school, I'm going to the high school to meet with whoever wants to come today. Do I present this to the staff? Because I have not presented this specific proposal yet. I've told them what the money is, I've told them what the kind of the minimum is, and I've told them what that maximum that we can't afford is, and I've told them we're gonna try to settle someplace in between. Do you want me to share the idea that we've put together that I know I think we can afford?
My feedback, just from the two that you did, showing the one that's the lowest had equal negative feelings as showing the one that's the highest.
I
Because
agree.
This one's, made people question if they could do it, as well as the other one of, well, that's nice, I wish now we can't do that. So that's just my opinion is, we sure that we're trying to work on this and.
I think so.
I agree. I think you should do what you've done with the others. I'd hate for them to get back to, well, Mr. Wiggins showed us this and the other groups didn't.
Well, and I've told them all that I was holding off showing a proposal until I presented it to the board.
I would go ahead and do what you've been doing
I
with
would
the
too.
others.
We're still, because I think we're still working,
Okay.
like even if we
Chances
said,
are
let's
they've
meet.
seen it, so.
No, they have not seen,
Yeah.
they've not seen the
that,
actual, right,
The others that they're already aware of, I mean, there's no.
right. So, as a board, we have a board meeting next Thursday. My original plan was to hopefully propose something to you all to propose to PPC next Thursday. From a time standpoint, if we go a whole lot later than that, we're gonna be up against a 10-day wall and trying to get it before May 1st. So how would you all like me to proceed?
Has the group talked about their proposals? I mean, I assume their meeting.
I met with PPC Tuesday, the certified PPC on Tuesday of this week. I did not share with the actual proposal because I did not want to give it to them before I gave it to you. I would be happy to share that with them, but I don't want to do that if that's not something that you all are interested in doing.
I'm not myself. I just send it not. That's just me.
I mean, they've seen it. You haven't shared it with them officially, but they've seen it through district meetings.
No, I have not shared this.
No, not the new one, the old one.
Right, the other two.
Yes, I shared everything but this, the proposal that I was going to propose. I've shared everything that's in this except the proposal.
So they have a hard copy.
Yes, with PPC and with anybody that's come to a meeting. And anybody that comes this afternoon will get the same thing.
I'm just thinking timeline, if they have to meet, after we come up with whatever, then they have to meet and accept it, and the awareness during the process shortens that.
I agree.
10 days prior to May 1st, am I right?
They would have to be
10
presented
working
with the
days.
plan 10 days prior to your vote on it. And that vote would need to be before May 1st.
So you said working days.
Working days. We looked it up a minute ago.
That does push it extremely tight.
When you look at the dates, I think what Jody's asking is, are y'all wanting to start setting some meetings here in the next 5 days and get something figured out so you'll have something to present at the board meeting to the PPC? Or is that the direction you're wanting Jody to go?
I'm willing to. I'm willing to meet again. And, I mean, I'd like to just look at that, just on my own and try to figure it out, but I mean, like you said, I think this is where, with everything going, it's like that hiring a new superintendent timeframe. This could be, a few days, but I'm willing to. I just want, I think you've said it a little bit, I want our staff, our teacher, everyone to understand that we are wanting to do what we can to make things right, or at least just to show that we're working on something.
Right.
Whether it gets done this next year or we're gonna keep working. We're gonna keep working. And that's a focus.
I mean, yeah,
It's as important as
all we can do is put in our
the
time
projects
and
we're gonna do.
try to help y'all do whatever, but let everyone know that, it's not a just, we don't know what we're agreeing to, that we care about and we're working on.
Okay.
I don't wanna be a robot for you guys to do this, but I also wanna, what you shared was enlightening, and I appreciate all the work you did and all the information you guys shared. It was wonderful.
It was. I appreciate it as well.
And I think people need to see some of that information, and that gives us some talking points when things are said to us.
So if you all would like to get together and hash through some things, when would you like to do that?
Looking at the calendar, there are 16 working days before May 1st. So if that matters on your timeline.
I was looking at that as well.
Evening, I need to do evening.
Monday?
I could do Monday.
So I need to throw out also, putting the actual big numbers together, these, is not something that can happen really quickly.
Right.
So Terry poured over spreadsheets for a long time to get all of this, okay?
Exactly.
So coming together and thinking that we're gonna hash something out in a night and get a final number may not be realistic, because she's gonna have to do a lot of work to, if we're throwing out different suggestions,
Exactly.
every different suggestion is gonna take quite a bit of work to determine what that impact is.
But I think hearing whatever different suggestions and saying, okay, we can't do all four, but what two are we gonna see if she can, you know, is that kind of, it's kind of what you're saying too. Let's at least just throw some stuff, and it might be shot down immediately, but.
Well, let's get with Terry and see what time she needs from based off just what we have this meeting and she's gonna look up the numbers.
But what are we wanting her to look up though? That's what we got.
Well, one, we want her to look up what it would cost us to do, to put the 7 nurses onto the certified schedule, correct?
I can get that really quick.
So see, there's a quick.
Stuff like that would be good.
And it would, but you remember now, that's gonna depend on what salary schedule we're looking at too.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So,
I can give you an estimate,
Yeah.
a range.
Right.
And for me, Jody, I'm fine if you look at what you've proposed in regards to what Shane just mentioned. I'm okay with that too. Because it's a number that we.
Right.
What else do we need, Terry, need to look at? Anything?
I don't know what y'all thought of that. You know, some of the thoughts on there don't cost any money too, so, hey, I wanna get y'all spring break, okay? All of it. Cause I know
Yeah,
people
what
in
would that
my
be?
office, they don't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I mean, seriously, just any brainstorming of things, I don't know what those costs are, if they're worth it, but.
So,
Some of that, my idea behind like the loyalty incentive, I know y'all talked about that earlier, doing it in the past, but basically it's investing in those that keep investing in us. So we can't necessarily compete with the Bentvilles or the Springdales right now across the board. But if you stay with us, we're gonna do our best to keep you here. And if you look at those numbers and compare those to some of the others, it gets us a whole lot closer to those that, I mean, after year 5, you're making $500 or $850 extra. I just threw those numbers together too. I don't know what that.
you mean
really
they
should-
build upon each other?
Yes. And what does that look like though? I don't know. I just was throwing stuff down there.
So every teacher at the bottom would be,
2,500 or $2,350
for a step?
more. No, just their step would
one
be
time.
normal.
be a one-time bonus.
One-time
Okay.
pay.
Bonus that stayed on it.
Yeah.
Right.
So then when they got to 5, they would have.
I think, Jody, this is, I mean, what Grant, there's some questions here. I think that's a good starting point for our next meeting too. You know, even spring break. What was that? And then I think when, you know, I'll look through this again, but if something triggers, I can shoot you a note.
I don't know. And again, some people, and I've dealt with this a lot, some people think these things are silly. Some of them realize also that, hey, just trying to come up with a creative way that we are keeping those that stay here, because turnover costs a lot of money.
And when you say loyalty incentive, I'm assuming that you're talking about that many years in district.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that doesn't mean just because you've been teaching Fayetteville 5 years and then come here, you get 5 years. No, right, that's silent one. And then, you know, also, what's it look like for priority for hiring within? I know that's some things that get talked about a lot, of being able to grow within the community or within this district, and you know, what can we look like to make sure we have that as a priority?
So that gets into some difficult questions for me.
I know.
Do we want to hire the best person? Or do we want to hire the best person in-house? And my answer to that has always been, we want to hire the best person. Because we want to hire the best person to teach that class. We want to hire the best person to lead that building. We want to hire the best person to drive that bus. So that gets into some philosophical questions for me.
And it does, and I agree with that. I look at it a bit different too. If we're looking at, you know, hiring within and us growing people, then if our people are not always if we're seeing a discrepancy in hiring from within, then we need to do a better mentorship.
I don't disagree with that.
So there is different, that's just different ways I look at it. And is there a way that this stuff, you know, makes those people better?
Gauge interest on who is interested in doing things, or, you know, and try to help them.
When do we wanna get together next?
That's the road we were going down a minute ago, but
Yeah, let's
we
get
want
back
to
to
as soon as possible, but yet we need to allow time for
tomorrow morning.
people to get stuff.
So I'm gonna be honest, the things that you've asked me for are not gonna take that much time. What's gonna take time is, if you say, what does it look like if we propose going from $500 steps to $400 steps across our salary schedule? That's gonna take a little time, because that's gonna be trying to figure how that affects everybody across the district. These are minimal. I've already got the numbers for how many people, well, I don't have in district, but that can be got, I can get that pretty quick. So these things I can get pretty quick. The nurses, I can get pretty quick. I can do that. If we get into bigger things where we're trying to do different things in the salary schedule that affect everybody, that's gonna be where it's gonna be a little bit more time consuming.
So for me personally, I'm not opposed to if we say, okay, we're gonna try to provide these Monday, but the bigger things, I can't get to you until, let's just say Wednesday. I know that's not realistic. I'm willing to meet Wednesday then to talk about those things, like for me, that's just.
But I gotta know what those things are.
Oh, I know, right. Like if someone does come to you and you say, okay, that's gonna take time. Hey, guys, we can cover this tonight, but I'm not gonna have the information for you. And as long as I know coming in, that's fine.
I think that's realistic.
Yeah, I don't know if we wanna hold up meeting on some of these other things. I'm willing to have a second meeting as opposed to waiting for bigger items. You know what I mean? Let's cover some of the things that we can find out quicker, have a quicker meeting.
And I think I gotta have the opportunity for you to tell me what those bigger things are.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, we need to look at this and see. Yeah, I might not call you. He'll probably call you.
Monday?
I'm okay for Monday.
What time?
Are you okay for Monday?
It'd be depending on the time.
And on there, we had,
Monday
you had that
late
stuff,
or
we
Monday
also had
early?
the other staff that we want to come by.
And
I don't know the time frame on that, if that's quick and easy, you have.
we can, I think Terry and I can tell you on Monday what we're thinking for classified. I know we have,
Does everybody else have a preference?
Nobody said.
I know we have specific thoughts on bus drivers, aides, and cafeteria where we'd like to get to. And then, so that's where we started. And then with what was left, we tried to spread that across everybody somewhat equally. And so I think we can give you some of that on Monday, and you can either give us the thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral.
Well, I'm busy Monday till 11 a.m.'s the earliest that I can get together. Anytime after that, I can make it work.
I'm probably out of pocket until at least 3.
3.
So that's the least.
Is Tuesday an option?
Tuesday's an option for me.
I could do Tuesday early or late.
Brian?
I'm about the same. Well, I can even go earlier on Tuesday, but, I can say after 10 o'clock a.m. I can make anything work after that.
What about your all schedules?
On Tuesday, as long as I know I can pull up my calendar.
Your all schedule? You all have stuff already planned Tuesday?
I am canceling a meeting to Dallas, so I will be here and free Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Nothing on my calendar.
You had,
And save money.
you had a trip to Dallas scheduled?
It was to see it was to see a career and technical center, but I can maybe find somebody else to go. Do what? Yes. but I can find somebody else to go.
And there's other superintendents going, right?
Yes, and I can find somebody else to go. Dr. Miller is going.
Make me feel bad.
No, it's okay. It's not a big deal. This is more important than that to me right now. So,
There's always Easter Sunday.
Yeah, we've got to get this right, and we got to all be on board with it. So that we keep moving.
now, I will say this, tomorrow, we have no students. Tomorrow is Good Friday. But I can have answers to those couple of things tomorrow. If you think that is enough time for you to come back and have some bigger ideas that we might need to look into.
Is Thursday, meeting okay?
It may not happen then.
It would just mean that it
We'll just
potentially wouldn't happen. and we would
Thursday,
have
we'll
to
just
get
have to
back
push it
together
back,
to
yeah.
Vote on it.
As long as it's done by May 1st is the,
Yeah, but we have that 10 days in there too.
10 days.
Be a good trip.
So we have 16 working. So we have 6 days.
Don't worry about me going to Dallas. I am not going to Dallas. Somebody out there is gonna go to Dallas.
You're not
Somebody in
going-
this room.
Was that already decided, or because we're talking about this?
It is decided that somebody in this room will be going instead of me.
And what if we decide not to meet Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday?
Then it'll be double math. Well, we can meet tomorrow.
No, I'm fine with any of those
You guys
days.
off
I'm
tomorrow?
clear. No, we're working.
Y'all are working. If we can do tomorrow or Monday, doesn't matter to me.
I'm available tomorrow.
We have tomorrow.
No, I could do tomorrow.
That kind of doesn't give us a whole lot of time
It doesn't, but I could do
to
that.
dig through all this stuff.
It sounded like you were going toward Tuesday, and I'm fine with that.
I just had something on my calendar for Tuesday.
But
I just had something on my calendar for Tuesday.
Gotta be quick, right?
Well, figured what, 2 hours the most?
Or
3.
Hard to say.
Well, we can make a time limit. I'm good.
I mean, do
Monday,
you think
Tuesday,
there's
Wednesday.
enough for some initial, at least, look-ats on, based on what we've talked about, what Grant's got for tomorrow, to come back together and say, here's some answers to at least these questions, and
I believe tomorrow I can get you answers to the questions, these specific questions about the loyalty incentive and the nurses. I think honestly, I don't know where you all are gonna be as far as ready to have a bigger conversation about what the actual salary schedule might look like, or what you want to see.
Oh. If you put that on the numbers and see where that comes out too, as well.
Did you put this together?
I think it falls right in between where you're at and the other one right now, though. Basically,
I
after
can-
seeing your number.
Yes, I can put it together. It's gonna be much more expensive than the one I put on paper. So, yeah, but I can do that. I can tell that by the steps over here, I think.
So what are we gonna do? Tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday?
if we do it tomorrow, is Jody doing the house?
No. Because whatever's decided tomorrow, I'll be working on next week.
So do we wanna get together tomorrow and then that'll give us time next week as well? Or You said Monday wasn't good, right, Chris?
Monday's kind of rough, but I could pull together something if I need to.
And Tuesday,
Tuesday's fine with me.
you had something. Tuesday works for you, Friday works. Tomorrow work for all of us?
Yeah, unless we're meeting Tuesday, I mean, I'd just say we meet Tuesday. I guess, I mean,
Well, I'm good with that too. That's fine. That gives us kind of more time. Be honest with you, I'm not gonna have much time tonight to go over this, cause I've got
right,
other stuff to do. That has to be done
Cases.
tomorrow.
You gotta put up some cases.
And then I've got some homework to do that I have to have done by Friday. So I probably won't look at this tonight, to be honest with you. So if we wanna wait till Tuesday, we can. Tuesday, what time?
I could do any time. Whatever's good for everybody.
same. I mean, I can do another lunch if we needed to, or whatever you guys.
It doesn't matter to me. What's good for you,
On Tuesday? Anytime,
you guys?
anytime.
Calendars up.
My calendar's clear.
It just got cleared today, didn't it? Brad, how about you?
I am available.
You're what?
I am available.
Well, so do we want to do it? Now, I can't be here till after 10, so we could do it in the morning, or we could do it in the afternoon. Makes me.
Part
no
of it
difference.
over lunch would be great for me.
I would agree. That is you thing too.
At-
Having part of like starting at noon or
Start at noon,
or 11 to 1 or 12 to
11?
2, I mean, whatever.
I kind of like that 11 to 1 thing. Because then 11 to 1,
All right,
everybody good with that?
11 to 1.
Tuesday, 11 to 1.
Okay. You got it? Okay.
All right.
All right.
So this is a work session, so we don't need a motion
We probably need to adjourn.
do we need a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Adrian.
There it is.
Great.
Great.